happy Sunday. Welcome to another Cook Along Live. Today we're doing falafel. I'm going to adjust my camera over here just a little bit so that it's squared up. Perfect. I trust everybody can hear me today, and everyone's ready to cook falafel. So I got a couple of things out. I got my food processor. If you got one of these, I would highly recommend you use it. And I've also got my deep fryer. You don't need that. You can do this in just a small, like a ½ inch of oil if you have a nice saucepan to cook in. But you will need to at least get a little bit of oil in the pan because you're going to either shallow or deep fry these falafels. So without further ado, let's get started. Hopefully you read the directions on the post and you guys soaked your garbanzo beans overnight. Go ahead and get them draining right now. I've got mine over in the sink. We'll switch over here and I'll show you. You just got them in a large drainer right here. I'm just going to let these guys kind of drain and dry out. Do not use canned chickpeas for this. I also put that in my post. If that's all you got, then you're going to have to add a little bit of flour to this to keep it together. Otherwise, they will just disintegrate when you put them into the oil. So, hopefully, y'all got some dried chickpeas and soaked them overnight and are ready to go with those. Again, we're just letting them drain while we get all of the rest of our falafel mix ready. So, we're going to start with our parsley. I just got a bunch of parsley. I'm basically going to just kind of, at the end of every leaf, pinch off the leaves until I have about a cup. All of this is going to go into the food processor, so you don't have to make it perfect, but you do want to kind of keep the really big woody stems out of this. So something like this, you're really going to want to come up here and just kind of get the leaves off of it. Some of these other ones, you can just kind of grab bunches and kind of peel them off. Now, the cool thing about this is whatever you're left over with, you can actually use in tabbouleh. So if you want, you can just use the leftovers for tabbouleh. Hey, 17 frames, I already did chicken. So you can go back and look at my playlist and take a look and see how I do chicken. So we're just basically going to pop off all of the tops of these parsley bits. So we get about a cup when you kind of compress it down. So that's about a cup. I'll get a little bit more. And I'm going to use a salad spinner. You don't have to use one of those. You can just kind of rinse these under water, or if you already rinsed them, you don't have to worry about them. These came straight from the store, so I'm going to have to rinse them. We got our parsley pile. We're also going to do the same thing with our cilantro. I want to make our cilantro about the same amount of, same size of a pile. And we're going to do about the same thing. Cilantro, the stems are actually a lot more tender, so you don't have to worry so much about not getting big pieces. But if you have gigantic pieces like that, we're going to kind of pull those out and just get the leaves around them. And then with any leftover cilantro, you can throw them in a guacamole, or you can throw them into a salsa if you got that coming up, like Taco Tuesday's coming up. So I'll just take the rest of that and toss it into a bowl of salsa. And we also did Taco Tuesday. That was the first Cook Along Live that we did. So if you want any information on how to run a really, really good taco night, go ahead and take a look over there. Next thing we're going to do, I'm going to do about 3 cloves of garlic. And I'm going to pop them off of the bulb first. And that last one there is a little bit small, so I'm actually going to make it 4. I like garlic. If you don't like garlic, don't put as much in. The amounts aren't going to be super... Like, you don't have to stick to the amounts 100%. If you want to play around with it and see if you like something a little bit more than something else, that's cool. Go for it. The main thing is that we're using the dried chickpeas and not the canned chickpeas. And the reason that you don't want to use the canned chickpeas is the canned ones are actually cooked and then stored in the can. By cooking them down, it actually breaks down the starch in the beans. and the starch is what kind of holds everything together, which is why you have to add flour if you're not using dried chickpeas, if you're using canned chickpeas. There's 3, and we'll get our last one here. And there we go. Yeah, 17 frames. I'm a pilot. I love to do simulated aviation. I like to do real aviation. It's a lot of fun, all of it. We got all of this ready. I'm going to go ahead and just toss these into my food processor. And get the cutting board kind of clear. Same thing with our garlic. Just going to kind of toss it in there. I'm going to grab, I didn't have a jalapeno, but I do have a garden salsa pepper, so I'm just going to use this. Get this chopped in half. And kind of clear out the seeds and that white pith in the middle at the bottom there. There we go. And if you want your falafels to be a little spicy, feel free to leave the seeds in. But I just want this for the flavor. There we go. And we got some onions. I'm going to use about 3 green onions. My green onions are gigantic. I mean, I don't know where they found these mutant green onions, but these are what we're going to use. And we're not going to like chop them down very fine, but I am going to get rid of the roots at the end. And then I just peel off the last layer, and that's a pretty quick way of cleaning them down pretty well. Obviously check and make sure that there's no dirt in like the crevices and up in the actual stems. Like this one here has some dirt in it. I'll just get rid of it. Same thing with these guys over here. Peel off that outer layer and then just make sure a little bit of dirt on that. And then same with this last one, looks good. We're just gonna cut these into like chunks. These guys are pretty large, so I'm gonna basically do 4 chunks. They don't have to be the same size or anything like that. It's just basically to get them to fit into the food processor. There we go, and what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna add a little bit more parsley and cilantro. So I'm gonna grab a couple more leaves here. Now, if you want, you can also add mint to this. I personally have tried it with mint. I'm not a fan. I like just the parsley and cilantro. You can do it with just parsley or just cilantro, really whatever works. I've already got my tabbouleh done as well. So before this, I made tabbouleh and hummus, and those are ready to go for dinner once we kind of get to the dinner part. So we've got all of our aromatics in here. Making sure I didn't miss anything with my recipe. Yep, we're good with this. So go ahead and toss the lid on your food processor and get these guys down. We're just gonna kind of go for a bit. Stop. I'm gonna go grab a spatula. We're gonna scrape down the sides just a bit. Like so. Then we'll give it another blitz. We basically want this to get down to the, like a coarse sand texture. It's kind of where we're going with this. Hey, Michael, what's up, man? Good to see you. I did say white onion. You can use white or green onion. So if you're using a white onion, just chop it in half. You don't have to dice it. All you really need to do is like maybe quarter it a couple times. So you got your half an onion, just quarter it, toss it in here, blend it down as well. Green onion, it's just a different flavor. I prefer green onion, but white onion is more traditional. So it's totally up to you. You can also mix them. If you want to use a couple of green onions and maybe like a quarter of a white onion, you can do that as well. So here we go. Everything is chopped down pretty uniformly. I'm going to give this a scrape and just make sure There aren't any giant chunks. I'm not seeing any giant chunks. So we are good to go. Sand is coarse and gets everywhere. I hate it. It's a Star Wars reference for all of you non-geeks out there. So we got our garbanzo beans. We're just going to put them in here. Chickpeas, same thing. And fun fact, if you actually eat one of these garbanzo beans not cooked, they taste like snap peas. So if you like sugar snap peas, dried garbanzo beans that have been rehydrated taste kind of like sugar snap peas. Not quite as sweet, but they still have that pea flavor. Not that pea flavor. I'm talking about peas. So with this, we're just going to keep grinding it, and we want this to, again, get kind of down to a coarse sand texture. Gonna let it go for a little bit, then stop it, scrape down the sides. Now, I did make this a couple of times this week. The first time I made it, I was following a recipe, and it came out super, super bitter, like really bad. It tasted like the oil was burned, or like I left them in the oil too long or something. It really was not a good flavor. So I thought maybe I did something wrong. I actually changed out the oil, tried it again. I also blamed the mint, because I'm not a mint fan to begin with, generally speaking. So I had put mint in the first run, and I was like, no, it's got to be the mint. Mint is terrible. So I redid it, and same result. It came out really, really bitter. And I was wondering why. And I think I found the issue. In the original recipe that I followed, the recipe called for baking soda, which, as we all know, baking soda and baking powder are very similar, yet they are very different as well. They look very similar, but one is an acid and one is a base. So baking soda is what the original recipe that I tried called for. Baking soda is basic. And what I mean by that is it needs an acid, otherwise when you cook it too hot, it will turn bitter. It'll make whatever you're cooking turn bitter. Didn't quite realize that until I started getting my bitter falafel. Went and did a lot of research on the internet, and found out that that was the case. So I decided to look at a couple of other recipes. They recommended using baking powder instead, which is already acidic, and I got the results I was expecting. So make sure that you are using baking powder, not baking soda, or your falafel will not taste all that great. Just a fun little side story there. All right, we'll go one more here, get it ground down a little bit more. I'm just getting all of the sides to kind of fall into the middle and get chunked up. That looks good. So we've got our bean paste. Now if you take this and scoop it into like a spoon, it should, and then like, you know, squish it together with your fingers, it should hold together. It should more or less stay in one lump. Almost feels like that Nickelodeon sand that you used to get, the really gooey stuff that like you could squish, and anyway, it should hold together. If it's not, then you're gonna have to add a little bit of flour. However, if you use the dried beans instead of the canned beans, you shouldn't have a problem here. This will be my actual fourth time making it. I made a third batch with the baking soda, and it came out well. So, I'm sorry, with the baking powder. See, even I made the mistake there. Baking powder, and it came out really well. So, all three of the previous attempts, and even the fourth one here, I haven't had to add anything. I have seen recipes that ask to add chickpea powder, because you can find that as well. I haven't needed it, so I'm not suggesting you use it. So we got this. I'm actually going to grab a little bowl, and we're going to toss this in the fridge just for a few minutes to kind of sit. While we're waiting for that to sit, we'll make our tahini sauce. And letting it sit in the fridge kind of lets all of the flavors come together. Actually, you know what? Before we put it in the fridge, there's some seasonings we want to add. Speaking of flavors coming together, getting ahead of myself here. We're going to be adding our seasoning, so salt, pepper if you want to add pepper. I usually don't. Cumin, cardamom. Now the recipe I think calls for a teaspoon of cardamom. I thought that was a little strong, so I'm going to actually cut that in half and use a half teaspoon of cardamom. Cardamom is kind of a sweet, sweet seed, I think. Pretty sure it's a seed. And they grind it down just like cumin or just like fennel or anything like that. And it imparts a nice sweet kind of Indian food kind of flavor to the mix. It was a little bit too forward when I made the good version of the falafel. So I'm actually going to half the amount that I'm putting in my falafel and give that a try. If you don't want to put cardamom in, if you're not looking for any kind of sweetness in your falafel, just omit it. I know that if you went out and bought it, it was probably an expensive spice. If you haven't opened it yet, go ahead and return it if you're not into that kind of a flavor. I thought it was actually a good flavor, just a little too strong. So I'm just going to reduce mine a little bit. Let's see, I already put this in this little bowl. So I will swap it out for a bigger bowl. So since I'm going to be mixing, I'm actually just going to put this into a bigger bowl so that I don't have to worry about flinging it all over my kitchen, which does happen from time to time. Let's go ahead and start with our garlic. I got cardamom, baking powder, not baking soda, and salt. So we're going to add the first three, then we're going to salt it. When you season this, make sure that it's seasoned maybe slightly a little bit more salty than you would like. You don't want it to be like crazy salty, but you do want enough salt that you're tasting the salt. Otherwise, the falafel comes out pretty bland. Obviously, the outside is yummy and deep fried and delicious, yet the inside will be kind of like meh. You don't want it to be meh. All right, so what are we doing? I think do a teaspoon of baking powder. Go ahead and add that right in. I'm actually going to do a teaspoon of, well, I guess 3/4 of a teaspoon of cumin. And then the cardamom, we're going to do just a half teaspoon, just to kind of give it that flavor, but not to overpower it. Now, what cardamom smells like is exactly what it tastes like in the dish. So if this is like way too flowery or way too sweet for you, again, it's totally up to you to just omit it and maybe give it a try on a subsequent version. Or just try it like this, see if you like it. If not, it's super easy to remake another batch. You have to wait overnight to re-soak your garbanzo beans, which is kind of a pain, but other than that, it's actually not that bad. So we're gonna go ahead and get this all mixed together. And I like to use this kind of cutting method where I just run my spatula through backwards and forwards. And in doing this, it gets all of the herbs distributed pretty well. Every so often, I'll give it a nice stir, like so, to kind of clump it back up together. And then I'll just give it another quick, I like to call it a cutting. I don't know if that's the technical term for it, but that's what I like to say. All right, so let's start with a teaspoon, or actually a couple of pinches. You want to use a teaspoon, that's totally up to you. I like to just kind of season the surface, like so. We'll kind of cut the salt in, and then we'll give it a little bit of a taste. And we will see if it's salty enough. You really don't want a light salt taste. You want to make sure that it's seasoned. Maybe like just slightly I don't even want to say slightly too salty. Just make sure that it's like on the upper end of how much salt you like. There we go. Just take a little pinch. I don't like putting the salt, seasoning in with everything else in the food processor because this is going to, number one, stuff like the baking powder, it's just going to go poof. It's going to get super dusty because the blades are spinning around too fast. I just want to make sure that it gets incorporated. It doesn't have to be like perfect, if that makes sense. You just have to make sure that you get it kind of mixed in through. I haven't had any issues with not getting this mixed up enough. I'm going to add another couple of pinches of salt to mine. And we'll give it another taste here once we give it another stir. And then after this, we'll put it in the fridge and we'll get onto our tahini sauce. We're just going to make the tahini sauce in the same food processor. That's good. I'm actually going to sprinkle in just a bit of cayenne as well. My pepper wasn't spicy enough. So I've seen some pretty cool recipes for falafel where you can add like olives to this, or you can add all kinds of things to this. We're just doing a basic version tonight. So if you want to get adventurous after the fact, I recommend it. It's always fun to explore and see what you like to make. But for tonight, we're just going to go simple. You'll notice this looks a lot like the mix that you get at the store, which you just add water to. This is going to be a little bit less gritty, a little bit more moist. So when you actually deep fry them, these should come out less like hockey pucks and more like actual yummy falafels. So now we'll go ahead and toss these in our bowl. And that's not to say that the hockey puck style falafel is bad. It's just these are a lot more moist. That's all I'm saying. My dad is probably watching and going, "Hey, I make falafel all the time. What are you talking about? Hockey pucks, jerk." And those falafels are delicious. And they tend to be a little bit dry through no fault of the cook, but just through the fact that you're using a box mix, which, again, if you're kind of stuck for time, no big deal. It works really well. But if you can have a little bit of planning and put this together overnight, this is, in my opinion, slightly better. All right, there we go. I'm going to get a little bit of, I'm actually just going to put it in a Ziploc bag and reuse the bag because the bag's not going to be dirty at all. Like that, and we'll toss it in the fridge for, it'll take about 10 minutes to make our tahini sauce. Set you up there. All right, I'm gonna give this a quick rinse. We'll switch over to the sink cam. So how's everybody's week been? Having a good one? What do you got planned for this coming week? I know Dad and Cindy, my stepmom, are off in, you guys aren't in Colorado anymore, are you? Or are you in Colorado still? I can't remember, your itinerary is so adventurous. I can't keep track of where y'all are. Let's see, this week I've got a couple of pretty cool classes that I'm teaching. In case those of you who don't know, I work for Keller Williams Realty. I'm a technology trainer and also a real estate agent. I work locally in the Bay Area in California, East Bay. Currently got about 5 buyers that I'm working with, no listings. Unfortunately, they're all looking in price ranges that are very difficult to find homes that are, you know, worth purchasing in. So they're looking in like the mid 5s, high 4s, and in this part of the country, that's difficult. And if you do find something that's actually a really good buy, you usually have, you know, pretty good amount of people who are also interested in it. So kind of working around that. But not a bad thing, just challenging. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get this rinsed. Now, you guys are gonna think I'm crazy when I do this with the tahini sauce. But we're gonna be putting a whole head of garlic in here. And we're gonna be doing it with lemon juice as well. So I want the juice of 2 lemons. We'll switch back over to our cutting board here. And I'll catch up on the chat. Moab, Utah, awesome. How'd the walk's been when you guys go out and take a look at all of the awesome scenery? So usually when I tell you to cut a lemon in, for juice, I'll have you cut it in like a third, and then like turn it and cut it again. We're actually going to throw the seeds. We're going to throw a whole head of garlic in here with skin and all, because we're going to strain all of that out before we mix it. Just makes it a lot quicker. So grab 2 lemons, cut them just directly in half. And we're going to juice these guys directly into the food processor. Seeds and all. Let's see, where did my juicer go? Here it is. If you really want to take the time and get the seeds out, or strain the seeds or whatever, I guess you could. I'm not going to worry about it because I'm just going to go strain it at the end. Get all that in. Now the reason that we're putting a lot of lemon in here and then a whole head of garlic, so garlic gives off a garlicky flavor, and it also has a chemical in it that turns into that bitterness, like the kind of bite that garlic gives you, the spiciness. If you grind or crush garlic inside of an acid like lemon juice, actually very similar to the baking soda thing that I was talking about, the acid kind of neutralizes the bite, so you get a really nice subtle garlic flavor without any of the spiciness. So if you throw your lemon into a blender first or into a food processor, I'm just using the food processor again since we already had it out, you eliminate the bite, but you get the garlic flavor. And strangely enough, even though we're going to put a whole head of garlic in here, it's not overpowering. It's actually a really nice, kind of subtle garlic flavor. There we go. I'm just going to scoop everything into here. Give this a quick rinse. And let that dry off. Let's see. My head of garlic. So we're going to disassemble this entire head of garlic. Just going to chop off the top, like so. And from here, you should be able to almost kind of like press down on it, and all of the cloves should kind of separate. Now all the big pieces of skin that are super easy to get off, go ahead and toss them, but then just throw the cloves in the food processor. Again, you can also do this in a blender. I just don't feel like cleaning a blender tonight. I'm lazy. Wait, no, I'm efficient. That's the term. I'm efficient. I only want to clean one thing. Toss all that in there, get all the skins off of our cutting board. There we are. Go ahead and get this covered, and I'm really just gonna let that go for a bit. Hey Tori, how's it going? Is it baby time yet? I'm looking forward to meeting him. I know you guys went and got the Prego pizza a couple days ago. We have a urban legend down here. There's a pizza place called Skipolini's, and Tori is one of my friends. She's just about to have a baby, very, very, very pregnant. And the Prego pizza is one of the urban legends, urban myths. You eat one of those, and 2 or 3 days later, baby's ready to go. So I'm curious how that worked out for you. All right, so this is very, very watery. Let's see if you guys can see in there. Not really. Let's do that. So we got a really nice garlic kind of paste in here, which is what you're looking for. Set that into my big mixing bowl. And then I'll grab another little dish to make our sauce in. Oh no! Oh, wait. Don't put that directly in the bowl. Chill the little guy out. That's no bueno. All right, here we go. So we're going to strain this. Just going to pour it into our strainer. This is the same strainer that I used to drain the garbanzo beans. And we're just going to kind of let this go through. I'm going to go grab a spoon and kind of squish it through as well. Here, I'll use my other bowl here for leverage. And I'm going to grab my spatula and just scrape all of the little garlic juice bits into here, because we're going to use this to strain it all out. And again, what this is going to give you is a really nice subtle garlic flavor, no bitterness, and it's just an easier way of doing things than taking the time to have to peel all of this, because now you're peeling it right now. It's peeled, you got all the juice, and all you got to do is strain it. I got a bunch in the lid as well, so I'm just going to kind of scoop, 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 and scrape, and then I'll toss all of this in the sink. Now, a lot of these recipes, a lot of Middle Eastern recipes have sticky things in them. Garlic, tahini, garbanzo beans. The secret, if you don't want to clean things immediately, is just to fill whatever you just used with water, and it'll keep all of that sticky stuff kind of moist. And then later that night, later the next day, however long you want to go, it will be ready to clean. It won't be sticky or dried, because a lot of times if you're using tahini, it just dries and turns into almost like a cement in the bowl. Now, I don't like cleaning out cement. It's not fun. But if you put a little warm water in there, you can come back like an hour later when you're done eating, and it really just kind of wipes right out. Here we go. We're just going to kind of press this through our sieve, and it will get a lot of the juice through, and most, if not all, of the skin and seed bits and all of that will stay in the strainer or colander. And there we go. So all we're left with is a yummy garlic lemon juice. I'm going to scrape all these skins directly into my bin and toss that in the sink in a bowl that's got some water in it. All right, so now we're going to switch over to a spoon. Why a spoon, cousin? Because it's blunt, you idiot. It'll hurt more. It's from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I am such a nerd. All right, we're going to grab our tahini. And we're going to add a couple of scoops directly to the lemon and garlic. Now the tahini is going to kind of really, really thicken up when it hits the moisture, the water of the garlic and the lemon juice. And we're going to use quite a bit of tahini, 3 or 4 tablespoons. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get just like a measuring cup, maybe about a cup of water. We're not going to add all of the water. We're going to add it as needed to kind of thin this out. But that's essentially the tahini sauce. It's just that lemon paste, or lemon garlic juice, I guess, and then tahini paste to thicken, and then you just add water to thin it out. So I've just got 3/4 of a cup of water over here. Move our mixing bowl, and we'll just start kind of mixing. You'll notice that this is kind of breaking, so I could probably add quite a bit more tahini. I want this to be fairly thick, with 3 or 4 uppercase C's thick. So you'll notice that this is kind of clumping up right now, which is fine, because now we're just going to start adding water to it to thin it out. Just a little at a time. And just be gentle because you're working with a glob of fat, basically. Sesame seed oil is a fat, and you kind of have to emulsify the water into it, so you just got to be gentle and patient with it. It will start thinning out and becoming more and more workable. And we want this to almost get to a ribbon stage where it isn't like water, but it does kind of ribbon off of the spoon. Or if you have a whisk would be a good way to mix this in. Hey Tori, do you guys have like a updated due date or anything, or is it supposed to be like now? Give it a taste. That's yummy. But I want to thin this out just a bit more. There we go, becoming more of a dressing, which is what we're looking for. Still a little thick, but a little bit more water. That mix through. There we go. Any day. All right. We got 2-week countdown. Looking forward to it. So here we go. This is kind of the ribbon that I'm looking for, and I'm going to switch to my host cam here so I can kind of show you. You want it to be very ribbony. You don't want it to just pour off the spoon. You want it to kind of drip off of the spoon and be like a sauce. You don't want it to be too watery. You also don't want it to be too like thick and gloopy. Not quite what we're going for. Just be patient with it. Now you are going to notice that kind of if you're using a spoon, in the convex part of the spoon, you are going to get a little bit that kind of gloops up on you. So just scoop it out and give it a nice stir back through. Now again, totally up to you if you want to season your tahini sauce. I'm actually going to add just a small pinch of salt to give it a little bit of seasoning, because you don't really want anything to be too bland or too one-dimensional. The salt will give it a little bit of depth of flavor. You don't want to oversalt this though. This you want to kind of leave the way that it is. But adding salt will bring out the flavor of the garlic a little bit, kind of tone down the flavor of the lemon, and maybe with a really nice sauce. Now this is also going to thicken up a little bit while we're waiting on our falafel to cook. So if it's a little bit over watery, don't worry, it's not a bad thing. Perfect. Just going to set that to the side, switch back over to here, and we'll get our falafel mixture out of the fridge, and and we'll get it formed, ready to go. So falafel is super easy to make. If you have a falafel former, which is like a little spoon with a little spring-loaded kind of releaser to pop the falafel out, that's the easiest way. I don't have one of those. I think my dad stole the one that I thought that he left here with him. So hopefully he's got it and he's using it. I just use a tablespoon. Or if you have a small ice cream scoop, these work even better. But either one, you can see that they're about the same size. They're about 1 ounce. If you just have a tablespoon, you're just going to scoop out the falafel, kind of flatten it in the spoon, like so. Then use 2 fingers and kind of scoop it, I guess 1 finger on the tablespoon, kind of scoop it out like that. And you'll get a little falafel ball that you can now form with your hand. And that'll give you a small patty. And that works pretty well. So there's a falafel patty. The other way to form your falafel is, instead of leveling it off, let's get this back into the tablespoon, scoop it out and kind of roll, make it into a ball on the actual tablespoon, like so. And just try and make it as even as you can. And then at this point, you can actually just use your fingers to kind of pull it out, just gently. Now you've got a little bit more to work with, and you've got a ball shape. So if you want to make falafel balls, you can just put them right into the fryer, or you can kind of flatten these down a little bit. I like to make them about a 1/2 inch tall, and you can make little falafel pucks this way. Now all of your falafel mix should be sticking together. This should be malleable enough that if you're gentle, it forms into a patty, and the patty's not going, like, it's not falling apart on me. It's a nice solid falafel patty. Might flatten that out just a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on my little metal grate. Same thing with the ice cream scoop. This is just easier to release. You just scoop it in, form it into a little ball on the ice cream scoop, however you want, and just right off into your hand, and then just, again, form it into whatever you want. I like to make little patties that are about a 1/2 inch tall and a little disc. Now, if you're not eating all of your falafel tonight, or if you're going to do this for like lunch and then maybe you want to have it for dinner as well, don't cook what you're not going to eat. This will sit in the fridge for a day and be fine. You can also take this and freeze it and then thaw it out later if you want to make more falafels a couple of days later. Or like up to a month later, I guess, if you freeze it. If you cook them all and put them in the fridge, all the crispy outside is going to not be crispy anymore. And I did a little experiment with that. I put some in an air fryer. I have like a toaster oven that's got an air fry setting on it. And they were good. I mean, they tasted fine, but the crispy outside didn't exist. So, little pro tip for you: kind of fry them as you go for whatever you're going to eat. I'd say maybe count on like 5 to 6 per person for like a falafel sandwich. A little bit less if you're also serving other things. Like, I've got some tabbouleh and hummus made in advance that I'm going to be going along with these. I'm still going to make myself about 6 of these. And we're just going to get them ready to go. Yeah, tahini is usually either in the special food section, like where the Asian food, the Mexican food, and all of that stuff is. I think they call it like the international aisle. It can be in there. It can be in where the peanut butter is, like my sister said, like Rachel said. And if all else fails, just go and ask one of the stockers. Say, hey, where's your tahini? Most Safeways have it. There's one Safeway didn't, and the product manager actually was there the guy that I was talking to, and he's like, we should have it. I guess they just hadn't been ordering it, so it started showing up once I mentioned that they didn't have any. So if you don't have it, or if they don't have it, just let them know. Might be something that they just don't even know that they haven't ordered in a while. I like this stuff. This is like what my family has used forever. I think it's fantastic. But pretty much any tahini will work. They're all similar. Slight differences, but I haven't gotten a tahini that I haven't enjoyed. All right, so there we go. We got 6 little tahini pucks in here. We're basically, I'm just going to go and wash my hands because I got goober all over them. We're going to just let that basically fry for about 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. If you're using this in a shallow fry where you've got like a 1/2 inch of oil in your pan, you're basically going to do like 3 minutes a side. You'll do 3 minutes, flip it, 3 minutes. Yeah, where the Jewish stuff is, a lot of like the kosher things, a lot of times you'll find the tahini in there as well. Hey Siri, set a timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, starting now.
And I've got my oil up to 350. That's kind of where you want to start, anywhere between 330 and 350. If you're just doing it in a pan and shallow frying, just make sure that the oil is hot. You want it to be bubbling like this. If it's not bubbling, it's not warm enough. I'm actually going to press my falafel back down and put it back in the fridge for lunch tomorrow. I've got that plastic bag that I used earlier. I'll just reuse it. And we'll be good to go. You'll notice that, I mean, we're deep frying this. It's not spattering all over the place. It's actually going pretty tamely. After it's been in there for about 30 seconds to a minute, grab a fork or grab a chopstick or grab something that you can kind of poke around with. And basically what you want to do is just kind of release it from the bottom of either the pan if you're shallow frying so it's not sticking, or if you have a basket like this, just from the bottom of the basket so it doesn't stick. And that's all she is with that, all she wrote. Now I have some lettuce, a cucumber, an onion, and some cabbage. To use as toppers on my falafel. And while that's kind of deep frying over there, I'm going to go ahead and get it going. Just going to cut off about that much of the cucumber, put the rest back in the fridge, get this plastic wrap off, pick up the plastic off the ground so the dog doesn't get it. So as far as the cucumbers, I like to just kind of take off the stem, cut it in half, quarter it. I leave the skin on. If you want to take the skin off, skin it, like that's totally up to you. And then I'll just line these up and cut 1/4 inch little chunks. Now, I also have, some people like to put tomatoes on their falafels if they're making like a sandwich. I'm not going to cut up tomato, but I'm going to show you a little trick that I use that incorporates tomato when I make a falafel sandwich. And I don't need that much cucumber because it's just me. Just do this. Eat all the little bits. Nice red onion here. You can use white onion, you can use green onions, whatever kind of onion you want. I've already got green onion in my falafel. I like the little bit of extra tang that red onions have, a little bit of extra sweetness. So I'm going to use this to top my falafel. I'm actually going to quarter this guy like so. Peel off the outer skin. Hey Siri, how much time is left on the timer?
The timer has 58 seconds to go.
58 seconds, all right. Get some nicely finely sliced onion here. And if you're not a fan of onion, don't cut onion. Totally up to you. This is your falafel. You do what you want with it. A little bit of cabbage. Again, I'm just going to chop it in half, like so. Remove some of these outer leaves. Cut it in about a quarter, a little bit less than a quarter. I've got a little bit of a dry spot in here. We'll pull him out. I'll chop him up. Hey Siri, stop the timer. There we are. And our falafels look nice and good. We'll grab our fork and kind of push on them, make sure that they're crispy. Yeah, they're crispy. I'm going to let them go for just another like 30 seconds or so. There we go. We got cucumber, we got onion, we got cabbage. I'm going to chop up a little bit of romaine. You can use iceberg, you can use really whatever kind of lettuce you want. I like romaine. I think it has more flavor than any of the other lettuces. I'm just going to peel off some of the outer leaves that are not looking in good shape. And get this nice and diced, sliced, chopped. There we go. Wait, I don't want to toss that. Let me grab a piece of pita bread that I got over here. And I can neither confirm nor deny that the little bit that's missing from this pita bread was because there was a mouse named Robert that took a little bit of a bite out of it. Can't confirm nor deny that. Darn mice, they're everywhere. I'm going to cut this into quarters. I'm actually going to cut it kind of like that. This one I'll use with hummus. This one I'm going to drool tahini sauce out the bottom. But I'll go ahead and put a nice little bed of romaine down. Like so. Pull our falafel out. Put about 3 on here. Oops. Runaway falafel. And I like to kind of smash my falafel down a bit. If I'm doing a sandwich, if I'm just eating them, you know, like little nuggets of yumminess, I won't bother smashing them. I'll just dip them in tahini and eat them that way. Do some cucumber. Again, the serving is totally up to you, whatever style you want to use. Some onion here. Now I told you that I had a little bit of a trick for doing this. You actually don't need to cut up cucumber or onion or tomato. And then the last thing I'm going to do is, where did my little salt thing go? I'm going to put a little bit of seasoning on here. Nice little light dusting. Very cool. So the trick is, if you already have tabbouleh made, tabbouleh has everything in it that you need. It's got parsley, it's got tomato, it's got cucumber, it's got onion, and it's got a yummy lemon dressing on it. So instead of all of this and chopping up tomatoes and stuff like that, you can just sprinkle some tabbouleh on top, and you get essentially the same flavor profile, well, a better flavor profile in my opinion. But you'll get the same kind of things on top of it, and it's already seasoned, so you don't have to worry about adding a little bit of salt to it. There we go. Tabbouleh. Move this off to the side. And last but certainly not least, we'll add a little bit of our tahini glaze. Man, this looks good. Something like that. And your falafel with tahini is done, and we got tabbouleh and everything to go with it too, if you made that in advance. And those, I've got videos on that in my playlist, so if you go and look at some of the backlog videos that I've done on this live stream, you'll be able to see some of that stuff. Let's see here. Grab a plate. I'm just going to go ahead and serve it open face style like this because it looks really cool. I'll just set that there. We'll put, oop, and I forgot some of the cabbage. Drop some of the cabbage on top as well. And there you go. Now before you guys actually turn off the stream, I do want to show you what a cooked falafel looks like what the inside looks like. And then we're going to actually put one in here and not cook it. And I'll show you what that looks like. Let's do that. And, oh, did I already put it in the fridge, didn't I? So, give me just a second while I make one ball, and we're gonna do a little tester here. I'll show you what a cooked falafel looks like and what an uncooked falafel looks like. Now, uncooked falafel is going to be more if you're making balls as opposed to the pucks. The pucks cook pretty quickly. You're really waiting for the crust more than anything else. Or if you're making bigger than 1 ounce balls. Just set that there. Hey Siri, set a timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Counting down.
We'll just let that go. For a normal cooked falafel, I'm just going to cut right into it. You're going to have, obviously, the brown exterior, and you're going to have a really nice, bright green interior because you got your parsley, you got your onion, you got all of that stuff in there. It's going to be a paler green if you are using white onion versus green onion, or if you add more parsley and cilantro or mint or whatever, it's going to change the color, but it should be like a nice green color. And then you should have, and it should be a uniform green color throughout. And the outside obviously is going to be nice and crunchy. And that is yummy. And yeah, doing the half cardamom is way better. With the full spoon of cardamom, the full teaspoon of cardamom, it was like flowers in my mouth. Not ideal. So, a not fully cooked falafel, and my camera up there is not focusing on this, but a not fully cooked falafel will be sort of dark green on the outside. In the middle, it's going to be a pale green. You're still going to have the crust on the outside. So if you're making like a really thick ball or a really thick puck, and you cook it and you break into it, and the middle is like a pale green, or like a basically like the difference between that. See how one is like super pale and one is like the nice dark green? If you have any of that pale color that looks like what you have in your uncooked bowl that you just made the mix with, the center's not cooked, and you just got to cook it a little longer. Now you'll notice that this ball over here, like it's already getting brown. It's getting dark. So at about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, it will be cooked on the outside. The inside will probably still be a little bit raw. I'm just gonna dip this in here. Hey Siri, stop the timer. And that's a good falafel. Oh yeah. Give this another 30 seconds. There we go. This guy looks pretty well cooked. I don't know where my fork went, so I'm just gonna use my slotted spoon. You got the nice brown exterior. It's all cooked on the outside. And then when I cut through it, the center will probably still be a little bit raw. And it's crispy on the outside too. And there you go. See how you got the dark green on the outside, and then you got the light green on the middle? So the outside has been cooked. The light green part in the middle hasn't been cooked. So this almost is like a soft-boiled egg. Yeah, the light green is kind of mushy and not even really that warm. Now the cool thing is, if you undercook them, it's super simple to fix. You just put them right back in and let them cook for the rest of the time that they need. Hey Siri, set a timer for 4 minutes, and that'll be good. Like that one's going to be edible and cooked and everything. But just wanted to let you know about that, in case you get some of these and they feel like they're falling apart or they're a little too soft and tender. If they're a little bit light green in the middle, just cook them a little bit longer. Add like 30 seconds at a time. You don't want to do like a minute. You don't want to go like an extra minute or anything like that. That would be a little bit too much. Cool. So here's our falafel. It's open-faced. I'll just put this piece like that to make it look kind of fun. Let me grab one more piece of pita bread here. And we'll get this cut into a couple of smaller pieces. Let's do this. We'll put the two on top. We got the smaller piece. I'll cut these smaller triangles off. Now we got 3 that are the same size. Let me grab my hummus from the fridge. So here's a beautiful bowl of hummus. It's got some cayenne pepper on top and also some cumin. And what I will do is just kind of scrape on the outside. Put a daub in the middle of the plate, like so. Any that gets on my fingers is up for eating. Yum, yum. I don't have a place to put this bowl. There we go. And I'll take some tabbouleh. Oh, my fork was in the tabbouleh. That makes sense. And put it over here on the other side. Where's that slotted spoon? It's dirty because it's in the hummus. I'll use a non-slotted spoon. Get this kind of on the outside of the hummus here. And of course we're making it look better because presentation adds to how good something tastes. When it looks amazing, it's going to taste amazing. Hey Siri, how much time is left on the timer?
Timer has 1 minute and 34 seconds left.
All right, minute 34. Do something like that. And I'll grab one of these little smaller pieces, squish it into the hummus like so. Looks pretty cool. And then I'll take this topper and match up the angles here. And there we go. Don't touch your client's plate if you're serving this at a restaurant or if you have guests over. Use a spatula. But this is my own plate, so I don't care. I'll do what I want. And I want some extra virgin olive oil for that hummus. We'll just drizzle it right around this piece of bread, like so. And that is an amazing plate of falafel, if I do say so myself. There you are. I'm going to go ahead and switch to the front camera and kind of show it off there as well. But got a really, really delicious looking plate of food. We'll just do that, and then I'll come over to this side, and I'll show it to you this way. Hey Siri, stop the timer. Got a yummy plate of falafel here. Our little other falafels here are fully cooked. We're good to go. Bon appetit, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday night, Sunday dinner. Hopefully this turns out really well for you. I know my sister was going to give it a shot. I know Dad and Cindy are giving it a shot. I don't know if anybody else was giving it a shot, but please post your pictures of how it turns out in the comments. I'm going to post a picture of this to Instagram and also into the comments, and let's compare. I want to see how you guys did. Anyway, this is a great dish to put together. Obviously, if you're doing the hummus and the tabbouleh, it's going to take a little bit more time than if you're just doing the falafel. However, the falafel and the tahini sauce really doesn't take all that much time. You can put it together like in the morning if you're going to do it for lunch, or a little bit earlier in the evening if you're going to have friends over or something like that for dinner. And then just fry them when people are here and you're ready to go. And it's just a really quick, easy dinner to put together. And it's all healthy. It's all vegan. This is 100% vegan. Tabbouleh is vegan. The hummus is vegan. Is the hummus vegan? Yeah, it is. I don't think there's any animal products in the hummus, unless you use cream, which I don't in my hummus. No animal products in the tabbouleh. No animal products in the falafel or any of the pieces that go on top of the falafel. The little condiments, I guess you can call it. Now, another quick trick, if you want, I didn't do it for tonight, you can pickle your cucumbers and onions. Just put them in a little bit of rice wine vinegar and let them kind of sit for 10-15 minutes. You get a nice tangy falafel condiment on top. Oh, so good. Anyway, everybody, hopefully you guys give it a try. This is fantastic, super simple, super healthy, and I will see you next week with another Cook Along Live. Have a great night. See you later.